Mr. Tony Cañas, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Good job on the last name. The 10
I,
minutes we
I
spent with your research practicing it helped.
I try, I try. But Tony, I have to know this before we do anything else, and that is it harder to write a song that becomes a modern Christmas classic or recruit somebody into insurance?
I haven't tried the first one, although I did write two insurance themed parodies, one of which is recorded, one of which has not. And I have found, and they're not hits by any means, but I have found that recruiting somebody to come into insurance is a lot harder, is what I would expect.
All right, fair enough. If I had to give your take on your favorite modern Christmas classic tune, what is it?
My favorite modern Christmas tune. So you do know that the majority of Christmas music that keeps playing year after year is baby boomer music. And in fact, like there's a meme that from XKCD that maps it out, and the majority of the popular Christmas music is from that era. We just keep playing it every year. We keep pretending that there's still kids every year. That's what happens when you are the largest generation around. But I would say, All I Want for Christmas Is You. And I fell in love with it in a weird way. Basically, my girlfriend and I took a 6 week sabbatical through Eastern Europe, and this wasn't long ago. Like the song wasn't new. This was like 5 years ago. It played everywhere, like everywhere we were. They just kept playing it. I don't know why. So I connected it in my brain with that great trip.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I would say, the biggest. I mean, it's maybe even one of the biggest Christmas songs like ever, potentially. That might be a little bit hyperbole, but anyways, I definitely support that, and it is very hard. I don't know where the cutoff line. We could probably spend a whole 30 minutes just talking about what's the cutoff, what's the quality, or what's the kind of qualifications for this, but kind of going back to insurance and getting somebody interested, and maybe it is on the level of sort of recreating that. I mean, let's go with the boomer theme, right? This was, an industry that was maybe more appealing to that generation. How do you sort of remix it and reimagine it for somebody today? What has that challenge been like? And have you found any secrets?
So it wasn't the industry wasn't particularly attractive for the boomers to begin with. Uh, they fell into it by accident, like every generation prior and like every generation after. The overall business world today is built for the boomers. The reason it is built for the boomers is because they were such a large generation, and so the extras were never big enough in numbers to force changes. And when the millennials came around, now we have the combination of the millennials are just as many in number as the boomers. And number two, the taboo in changing jobs has died, and even within our conservative industry. So the millennials vote with their feet, and so will the Gen Zers. So if you don't make them happy, they'll leave and go elsewhere. So the industry wasn't particularly boomer friendly. It was just the boomers were raised in a world and worked most of their career in a world where once you signed up with a company, you never left. It looked really bad on your resume to change companies. So, and they were raised to put up with whatever crap they had to put up with. Right? The quality for the boomers, the quality of the job didn't matter. What mattered was their ability to provide for their families. Work is work. For the millennials, work is supposed to not only pay the bills but bring meaning to my life and allow me to make a difference in the world. So that's the big thing is we need to learn to sell that aspect of insurance to the new employees through the hiring process, through the orientation process, and even through their first 3 or 4 years in the company and in the industry. Really kind of hammer the how insurance does good for the world. The disadvantage is that we have a bad reputation, right? Most people, when they think of insurance, they think of paying every 6 months and never getting anything out of it because they've never had a claim. And then, of course, my insurance increases every 6 months, even though I haven't had a claim. So why is that, right? So we have a bad reputation out there. And the reality of the matter, once you get to know the insurance industry, is what we're doing is good for the economy. It's good for the world. We're helping people get back on their feet. Ultimately, commercial lines, personal lines, we're helping people get back on their feet. But it takes a few years for a new employee to realize that. So we need to explicitly help them see that. I think that is the biggest thing we can do is help them see the mission of what our industry does. And if you can differentiate your company within that mission, for example, when I started at Farm Bureau of Iowa, they did a fantastic job not only teaching me what insurance is, how it works, why it's important for the world, why we're doing something good for the world and the economy, and how Farm Bureau is different from Progressive, from Geico, and from any other carrier.
Yeah, that meaning that you speak of, I do think it's one that is, I don't want to say poorly communicated, but poorly communicated. Anybody that I've ever had a conversation with that you spend literally 4 minutes, 5 minutes explaining the sheer basics of insurance and how it works and how it functions. Most rational people be like, oh, that makes sense. I feel a lot better about this paying, for paying my premiums and not really getting anything out of it. Is that value exchange, is that communication something that you think we finally have momentum and numbers on to where people are gonna see it? You don't see it? All right,
fine. Not really. No. Not really. One place where we do have momentum is InsurTech. InsurTech is forcing insurance to reevaluate its role and to reevaluate its brand as an employer, and it's forcing every company within our industry to reevaluate its employer brand, which is something that they might never have thought about. So I do think that is giving us momentum. Another thing that is giving us momentum is there's no nice ways to put this. The politically correct, academically correct term is generational turnover, which, when you look it up, ultimately means some of the older people retiring or passing away and getting replaced by younger people, right? So in our industry, the way that is working out, the older boomers are retiring, they're being in leadership are retiring, they're being replaced by Gen Xers who are a lot more open-minded and who are a lot more willing to try new things, and who have a lot longer left to work, right? Because there's times where the leader realizes changes have to happen. Good luck to you guys 3 years from now when I retire, but I'm not going to do them while I'm still here, right? So and by the way, earlier you talked about the how do we recruit new talent into insurance. I think that on the agency side, which I know is who your listenership probably is, I'm more of a carrier side guy, but on the agency side, you have to help them see how the long-term career, the early agency side, especially the early broker job or the early producer job, is a very hard job, right? Chances are your base salary, which isn't that high to begin with, declines over time. Chances are there might not be a great training program depending on the agency. It's a tough road, but in the very long term, if you make it, you'll have pay and flexibility or freedom unequal to any other area of the industry. Right. All you have to do is go to an in-person CIC class or any other like in-person CE class and look at the cars parked outside, and you'll see that the agency space is a really great career if you make it. Right. So if we can paint that picture of, hey, we'll teach you how to do this, we'll mentor you on how to do this. It'll be hard for the first 10 years. You'll be putting in maybe more hours than friends who work in the carrier space. Then again, you probably don't have any friends that work in the carrier space. But if you succeed, the payoff for the rest of your career is unrivaled anywhere else in the economy, basically, because of the beauty of compounding renewals.
Tony, I think I want to create an app that just matches insurance carrier people with insurance agency people, like a friend matching, site. I think maybe that'd be benefit. You said nobody's our friends, but I think the other thing too on the agency side of things is that, and maybe why it's disproportionately sort of family driven is because it is a hard thing to take an investment on somebody that, you're not sure is going to be around. It starts to make a lot more sense when you do have those sort of conversations. I guess whether it's agency side or carrier side of things, just, talent that thinks about things differently and sort of, reinvigorates the industry is important. But let's just say in your conversations with people that are looking to get into the business, is there something that, when it comes to, appealing that meaning of what they're doing, or just things that sort of pop up to you that other people can use to help bring into their agencies? Is there something that you notice over and over again that tends to click?
Sadly, the number one thing that they have to understand is that this person that you're interviewing, if they don't have a significant insurance background, if they've never been in insurance or they only have a year or two at a different agency, they're not committed to insurance. Until they commit to insurance, this is a job. This is a way to pay the bills this month, right? They're thinking this is a temporary, get me through this year, get me through the next couple of years job. They're not thinking long-term career, and they might still be flirting with other careers. They might still be thinking about their psychology degree that they've never put to use. And wanting to go back to a different area. So I think the biggest thing is that helping them fall in love with what we do and helping them fall in love with how what we do can be a great match for them long term for a great career. And not only that, helping them fall in love with the fact that in the carrier side, pretty much from the beginning, and on the broker side, once you build your own book, your insurance career can be a secondary passion. I hate putting it that way, but what I mean is once you establish, you can put in 35 hours a week and dedicate the rest of your time to whatever your real passion is, and that's fine. In fact, there's a very good chance that over time you can find a way to join those two things. Yesterday, I was having a career chatwithtony.com, with a guy out in California who is currently an underwriting assistant, and his real passion is basketball. He's a basketball coach, and he didn't make the NBA. I think he played college, but like not even Division A. But he's a basketball coach, and he loves doing that. Basketball is what he really loves. Insurance pays the bills. That's perfectly fine. There are jobs in this industry that are perfect for him, right? The K&K brokerage that specializes in entertainment. He could be an underwriter for Berkeley Sports. There are places in this industry where his passion for basketball would be a huge asset, but he has no idea those jobs exist. So he's thinking, how do I grow my career without getting too far away from what I really love doing? Most people, because everything requires insurance, for most people, there is a job in this industry that's perfect for them, right? So during the interview, I'll try to bring it back to okay, so we're recruiting right now for a CSR or for an account manager or for a producer. I don't specialize in their passion is aviation, and I don't happen to specialize in aviation. Well, can you make a good case for how the experience here can, over time, 5 years from now, get them to the place where that would be a perfect match for them? Do a great job for me for the next 5 years, and we'll teach you everything you need to know and all the experience you need to get to the job that would really be a dream match for you 5 years from now. I think that's a great way to do it. Also, I should be careful to specify that I wear two hats, right? With the Jacobson Group, people think that I'm a recruiter. I'm actually not. I'm in sales for Jacobson. I sell staffing services to insurance companies and brokerages. On the insurance nerd side, I serve kind of as a guidance counselor. And on this side, I do it for free. So people grab time on chatwithtony.com and I give them career advice for free. I learn a lot from both sides to answer the questions that you're asking, but I'm not a recruiter. And also on the Jacobson side, we are the type of recruiting firm that you bring in when you need somebody experienced. We don't do entry-level stuff. So in my day job, I really don't recruit entry-level people. But on this side, I chat with a lot of entry-level people, whether in their first insurance jobs or in non-insurance jobs, who want to get into insurance. Why do they want to get into insurance? Because they either ran into insurance nerds, insurance.com, by random accident, or one of their friends is working in insurance and doing well, and that's why they want to make the move into insurance.
So what is high level recruiting, or not necessarily recruiting, but what does it look like to be placing, talent at a high level in different places? That might be something that would be somewhat unfamiliar, uncommon to some agencies, I would imagine.
What does it look like? It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Basically, we start with a conversation with a client, whether that's a brokerage or for us, most commonly a carrier. And that client is usually looking for an absolute purple squirrel. That is the terminology in staffing for like the absolute perfect candidate that would fit everything in your job description and would be within budget and dying to move to your area of the country or right next door, and somehow you didn't know about them, and helping educate them to the fact that in our industry there are no purple squirrels, because talent is so tight. Insurance talent market is so tight. And also, if they're a small carrier that doesn't hire very often, educating them on how expensive this might get. Once we kind of get them to the right place where they have proper expectations on the kind of candidates that are out there, and once we understand whether it's a permanent need or a temporary need, I myself am on the temporary side, but I work hand in hand with the permanent side people. Once we get them to understand what we can find, then my recruiters hit the phones, hit LinkedIn, hit our internal database, and every other channel we've built over the last 50 years of doing this, and find somebody with the right skill set, interview them, vet them, right? They talk to 50, 100 people, and they come back to me with a single resume and say, here's your closest to perfect person. And I go to the client with that and say, here, do you want to interview them? And I get to look like a rock star. My teammates in the permanent staffing side of the house, they usually come back with 3 to 5 resumes. And a big difference is the time frame. We can find you somebody for a temporary need in 5 to 10 business days. On the permanent side, it might take 4 to 6 weeks. And on the executive search side, which is the biggest department, on the executive search side, it might take 3 to 6 months. So they're very different processes. But that's kind of what they look like.
I don't know if this is going to make sense or not, or if there's even an answer, but do you notice any similarities between the type of people you're looking at, the resumes you're looking at, the conversations you're having on that side of the house versus the people that are coming to you from, the insurance nerds way? Is there anything that, if you had to boil it down to a common thread, that you can sort of see at the core of everybody that is looking for something in insurance?
I think that there's a ton of commonalities, but the biggest thing is just about most people that I'm chatting with have by now figured out that insurance is a fantastic career. They're not looking to leave the industry. Sometimes on the insurance nerd side, it's a, hey, I'm not making any progress. Should I leave the industry? And 99.9% of the time, no, you shouldn't. You should just go to somewhere that's a better fit for you. But they've all committed to insurance, which I think is a big thing that we could really share with our new hires or with somebody that we're interviewing that is entry level. If you stay in insurance for 5 years, you're never going to leave, and that's a good thing. You're never going to leave because you're going to fall in love with it. That's what we see over and over and over and over and over again. People are not in insurance. I never run into anybody either at conferences or in chat with Tony or anything that is in insurance because they feel trapped. People are here because they fell in love with it and figured out how to make a great career out of it. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd said earlier that, there was this sort of trial period that people felt like they might have been in, and we need to get them to, love the industry. And you mentioned it seems like there's a 5-year threshold. I was curious if there was anything else that, if it's just the extended time that you're spending in the industry, if there was another sort of moment or milestone that sort of helped accelerate or just make the lights go on for that feeling.
If you are a carrier, so most of your listeners are not, if you are a carrier, if you can give all of your employees a chance, whether they are in claims or not, whether they're in office or not, a chance to go and help out during a catastrophe, that is going to help them come to a realization of how awesome what we do is. That's what did it for me. I was an inside claims manager. I went on not manager. I was an inside adjuster, like level 1 claims adjuster. And after the Jacobson tornadoes in 2011, I got to go out for 10 days on catastrophe duty to help out. And it was an amazing experience to see the effect of what we do. Now, if you're an agency or a brokerage, can you replicate that some way? Part of it is community activities, right? You probably sponsor the local football team, all that stuff. If you can grab your younger employees and your newest employees and take them to that so they can see the effect that you have on the community, that'd be big. If you can partner with one of your carriers, right, with your number one carrier, if you can partner to get your employees a tour through real claims, I think that is where the rubber hits the road for our industry, and that is where people fall in love with it, being there when the promise is delivered, at least seeing it a couple times.
Hey, Tony, I got 3 more questions for you. First one is, what's one thing that you hope you never forget?
One thing that I hope I never forget is how this is a people industry. Ultimately, with all the insurtech that's coming in, and all the technology and all the changes and all the radical changes we've seen in the last few years, and we'll see in the next several years, this will always continue to be a people industry. The day that I forget that, my network will start to die. So that's the number one thing I don't want to forget. That ultimately, regardless of what I'm personally doing within the industry, even if I ended up selling technology for an insurtech, this is a people industry, and will always be. I don't see a way around that.
All right, and on the other side of that, Tony, what's one thing you still have yet to learn? I'm an inch deep and a mile wide, which is funny because I've got my CPCU and a ton of designations. I am not an expert in anything when it comes to technical insurance. I'm kind of the exact opposite of Bill Wilson, who is probably familiar to a lot of your listeners. We're perpendicular to each other. He is a mile deep in policy language. I'm not. I know a little bit about everything within insurance. So there's a ton that I still have to learn, and I learn more every day. That is one thing I love about my job at Jacobson, is that every day I am chatting with business unit leaders at different carriers, doing different things, and I'm learning about details about insurance that I didn't know. You will never run out of things to learn within the insurance space. It is incredible. All right, Tony, last question. If I were to hand you a magic wand of sorts to reshape, change, alter really the course of insurance in any way that you see fit, what is that thing? What's it doing and where's it
Hmm.
going?
That's a really hard one. So I've got my magic wand, right? My Apple Pencil. Uh, my Harry Potter knowledge isn't good enough to remember any of the spell words. But basically, the biggest thing I would change is I would immediately convince every current and prior and future insurance professional to never apologize for working in insurance. From now on, every time that in a cocktail party or whatever, the topic comes up, what do you do? Don't be like, oh, I just work in insurance and then move on immediately. Be excited. I work in insurance and it's awesome. And let me tell you why. And let me tell you why you or your kids might love it. That's the number one thing I would change.
Tony, this has been fantastic. I'm going to leave it right there, sir.
Thank you. Anytime.